Welcome back to the Yardie MMA podcast where we thump in the face and defend ourselves. I'm your host Silverback Sigri, and today's podcast title is Types of MMA Training Partners. In mixed martial arts, like with any other sport, you will encounter a wide variety of training partners with different characteristics and different personality traits. It's important that you notice these traits and these characteristics because it's essential in deciding whether or not you have a good training session and also a safe training session. Now, this is just a list of a few of the training partners that you will encounter in MMA. The MMA theorist. The MMA theorist is, I would say, a fan first and a practitioner second. Now, the theorist, this person enjoys exercises outside of MMA. This person enjoys running and enjoys lifting weights, but doesn't necessarily enjoy the actual act of fighting. They will basically enjoy theorizing about MMA rather than doing MMA, meaning they enjoy talking about MMA. They enjoy talking about, say, for example, previous fights that have happened in the UFC or in Bellator or whichever promotion they like watching, and they also theorize and talk about different grappling techniques or striking techniques that will work in different situations. Now, the MMA theorists can get very annoying at times. This person will, when you want to just work, this person will just want to talk and talk and talk, and it can lead you to being disrespectful to this person because it gets to you at times. Mixed martial arts or martial arts on a whole is a sport of discipline, and it's a sport of respect. So you really don't want to disrespect your training partners, and you really don't want to let them push you to that edge to just tell them to just shut up when you want to train. So what I would recommend for the MMA theorist is to train with him for the first section of your training for that day. The MMA theorists, they like to start out good and then they trail off into the talking as the training session goes on. So have that in your mind, keep that in your frame of mind that with this MMA theorist I'm only gonna get maybe 3 rounds of sparring if I'm doing sparring or doing some drills, and then they will trail off into their talking. MMA theories is good to have around because who doesn't like talking about MMA? We're MMA fans, we're MMA enthusiasts. I mean, the Yardie MMA podcast is the place you go to talk about MMA because you're an MMA enthusiast. But we also want to practice. We also want to train. Some of us, that is. So with the MMA theorists, you just know that you have him for the beginning of your training session. He's there. He will go a few rounds with you, but do not expect him to go the full training session with you. He will eventually trail off into his talking, and basically don't have your entire training structured around going with this one person, around training with this one person, because he will most likely let you down. So you have to have other training partners around you when the theorist is there, because the theorist, as I said, will just eventually trail off into his talking about MMA and theorizing about MMA. The next MMA training partner who you might encounter out there in your training is Sir Flinch-A-Lot. Now, Sir Flinch-A-Lot is most likely new to the sport, and he's gonna do what that he's just gonna flinch when you're sparring. Maybe even in drills he will close his eyes and blink a lot when you're throwing your strikes, and it can get annoying, but you have to understand that this person is most likely new to the sport, and it is your responsibility, one, to not kill him, meaning don't try to give him all of your strikes and give him your strikes with the amount of power that you would give a more experienced person. And the next thing is to teach him. So you have to teach him, for example, the different drills that you can do, whether at home or with each other, to help with your flinching. There are a lot of those drills on YouTube. You can follow channels like Gabriel Varga, as I've said previously, one of my favorite YouTube channels for mixed martial arts, Gabriel Varga on YouTube, and there's also Tony Jeffries, another one of my favorites, who can teach you different drills to minimize the amount of flinching so you can get used to the experience of fighting, because fighting really is and can be a very fearful experience. So somebody who is new to fighting, they will most likely flinch a lot, hence the name Sir Flinch a Lot. But Sir Flinch a Lot may also not be a beginner. There are some persons who do flinch a lot even after months of training, months of sparring, and getting used to the experience of fighting. For this person now, I recommend that you deploy an extensive and varied series of feints. Now, feint is basically you're faking the action of doing something, but you're not actually doing it. So you will pump out a jab, but you're not pumping it. You're not jabbing like you want to actually hit the person. You're just faking them. You're pumping out that jab halfway, quarter of the way, and you're seeing his reaction because you realize that this person flinches a lot. This person, they blink, they close their eyes when the strikes are coming, and you can take advantage of this. I think feints are one of the most important tools that you can use in fighting. It is underutilized by a lot of fighters, I believe. I am one person, when I train and when I spar, I use a lot of feints, and people tell me that it's very hard sometimes to spar with me because of the feints. I initially developed this style of fighting and adapted this strategy in fighting from one of my favorite fighters, Israel Adesanya. You know, he does a lot of feints, and just a lot of the city kickboxing fighters, they deploy a lot of feints, and you have seen how they have had success with it over the years. They've basically taken over, in a sense, a lot of their fighters. There's Israel Adesanya, middleweight champion. There's Alexander Volkanovski, who is the featherweight champion. He does a lot of feints. He does it different, and all of them do it different from each other, but they do it. And there's also Kai Kara France in the flyweight division, who is very close to a title shot. But it just goes to show that this one technique that this gym in New Zealand decided to practice and decided to perfect has gained them a lot of success. And it's not just that technique, obviously, that has gained them success, but I think it has been one of the major differences with these fighters from city kickboxing that has made them have so much success in mixed martial arts world. But yeah, when with the Sir Flinch a Lot, that is an experienced fighter who actually has been around sparring with you for a couple months to a year, or over the years. Deploy your feints, and what the feints do is they overload the brain. So this person doesn't know when you're striking and when you're not striking. So when you feint and they think that you're striking, it allows you to see what defenses they will deploy, how they defend themselves. Will they shell up? Yeah, I love fighting against the guys who shell up, because they shell up and they protect their head, but they leave their body exposed. So that's one defense that they will do when you feint against them. Or you have some of them who will just flinch and they blink and they don't see anything coming, and you can just punch them or kick them or take them down easily. And then you have some who will just run away, just try to get out of range completely when you feint against them. So you have to know what to do with the surf flinch a lot. If it's the beginner surf flinch a lot, you just teach him the different drills that you know, or you can find on YouTube to help him with his flinching problem. And if it's the one who is not a beginner and he's been fighting, you can take advantage of that by deploying feints against him. We're gonna break off now from the list of different types of MMA training partners and go into a training story time of mine. This recently I've started karate because I need to improve my kicks. My kicks are very basic, and I thought that joining a karate gym would be very good to help me improve my hip mobility and my flexibility in my in controlling my kicks. So I decided to go to this karate gym, a very good karate gym by Sensei Trevor King. You can find him on Instagram as well, Sensei, or you can find him at also the Ushinkudo Kyokushin Karate on Instagram. So yeah, I decided to join karate, and is the Kyokushin type of karate is very, I would say, it requires a lot of conditioning. Your body has to be up to scratch with getting punched and kicked to the legs and the body. There's no punching to the face, but it's kicks to the face and punches to the stomach and kicks to the legs as well. So for the first time, I'm sparring with one of these karate guys now. Let's call him Joe. So Joe now, I'm a beginner and I'm a newbie in karate. First time doing karate. So Joe is a blue belt in karate, and he's in his gi and everything, fully decked out in his gi, while I'm just in like regular training clothes, my shirt and my shorts. But Sensei decided that he would make us spar in some Kyokushin sparring, do some Kyokushin sparring. And the sparring was good, but the main takeaway that I got from it was that these karate kids, they kick hard. It was the first time in my life sparring somebody from a karate background, and I realized that they kick hard. And I don't do a lot of sparring really with kicks. I do most of my sparring, boxing sparring, and a little bit of kickboxing sparring, and also some wrestling here and there, some sambo wrestling. But what I really realized from sparring with Joe was that Joe kicks very hard, and Joe is a very good martial artist. But eventually, I got to break him down because kicks take up more energy than just throwing punches. So I have a decent amount of conditioning and pain tolerance. So I was able to just walk down Joe, eventually walk through his kicks, block them. Kicking, he was kicking hard, yes, but I would say he wasn't kicking with that much accuracy, meaning he wasn't able to kick me in my body that much or kick me in my face, in my head that much. I think that if he was able to do that, maybe the sparring session go on more to his, but because his successful kicks were just landing on my leg mostly, will say that after that day, or well, on that day and after that day, I felt a lot of pain in my legs, and I even felt pain in my arms from blocking the kicks. I think I sprained my wrist from blocking the kicks, and I felt some pain along my forearm. But I just walked him down, and eventually I saw that he was getting tired, and I have decent boxing, so I was able to use my boxing to get punches to the stomach, and I got a few kicks in as well, but I'm still working on them. So this has just been a little story time of my training, and I just said big up to Joe at the Kyokushin Karate Gym. He he's good. He's one of those persons who I want to compete with and try to find a way to get to his level and then surpass him after a while. Getting back into the types of MMA training partners you will encounter, this one is called your arch nemesis. No, your arch nemesis isn't necessarily, or isn't at all, I wouldn't say necessarily, this person isn't at all your enemy. This person is not your enemy. This person is your training partner who will push you and who you will push to become better martial artists. Now, with your arch nemesis, you will have different arch nemesis at different stages of your mixed martial arts journey. So when you're a complete beginner, maybe your arch nemesis will be somebody who you just started out with at the same time, but the arch nemesis that you will have 5 years down the line maybe will be a different person after your skill level improves. I think this person is very crucial to your MMA journey because this person really gets you to push yourself, and he also allows you to see where you're improving and where you need to improve. Your arch nemesis, it should be a fun rivalry. I use this person I've used this technique at different stages of my mixed martial arts journey to help me to, one, be dedicated to mixed martial arts, and two, to push myself to improve my skills and improve my technique. So from the start of my mixed martial arts journey, I've looked around at my training partners, and I decided in the back of my head, so your arch nemesis doesn't even need to know that he is your arch nemesis. It's just something that you put in the back of your head saying this guy is at a level that is either similar to me or slightly above me. I like to use people who are slightly above me because it pushes me to get better. So this guy, I will say to myself, this guy is slightly above me, right? He's beating me in sparring sessions most times, but I'm still able to hang with him a little bit, but I can get better. So I'll look at my arch nemesis and I decide that this guy is my arch nemesis, and for however much time that I need to improve and to get to his level, he's the person in the back of my head I'm thinking about before a training session or before a sparring session, where in the back of my head I want to beat this person. I want to always beat this person. MMA is a competitive sport. Fighters are competitors, and I believe that this little strategy allows you to have healthy competition that drives you to become a better martial artist. And you will find that people have you as their arch nemesis in the back of their head as well. So you have to be always be improving and always be training, because there are people out there who in your circle of training partners who see that, hey, this guy is good, and I see that for myself, where I know that persons see me as somebody who has a decent skill level with martial arts, and I know that they want to come and be better than me. They're training to be better than me. In the back of their head, they're saying that, Silverback Sigri, I'm trying to be better than him. And I know that me knowing that, it drives me to continue training, to never stop training and just feel like I've arrived. I have to keep up the skill level and keep up my conditioning and keep up my cardio, just because I know that these guys are coming and there are also persons ahead of me who I want to catch up to. This is a fun little thing that you can do in the back of your head to keep you going on a mixed martial arts career, keep you motivated, keep you disciplined, keep you dedicated to the journey. The next MMA training partner and the last MMA training partner that we will go through is the Destroyer. A Destroyer can be one of two persons. Either he is a beginner who is very strong and athletic, who doesn't know how to control his power, or the Destroyer is a guy who just always wants to go hard, wants to strike hard and use all his power in sparring or in drills. Let's address first the person who is the beginner, who is athletic and strong but doesn't know how to control his power. The Destroyer, who is the beginner, is somebody who you have to teach, especially for your own health and your own safety. You have to teach this person that, hey, this is the appropriate amount of power that you should be using for this drill or for this sparring session. I am not comfortable with you using all that power in our training session right now. I want to be safe. I don't want to go hard. I want to just practice my technique, and you need to practice your technique too as a beginner rather than just focusing on power. So with the beginner Destroyer, you have to teach him that you have to stop the training, and just when you realize that he is using too much power, you stop the training and just bring him to the side and just talk to him, and let's let him know that this is not the level of power that we are expecting you to use in this training session. You have to kind of tone it down, and hopefully he addresses the problem and he brings down the level of power that he's using, although some of them, they still can't control themselves. I mean, when you're a beginner, a lot of the times you can't control the amount of power. You don't understand the different levels of power that you should be using at different times in training. I have been a person guilty of that in my beginning days of training, not using too much power. I've used too much power as a beginner, and I've encountered other persons as well who use too much power as a complete beginner in mixed martial arts. I would say that it wouldn't hurt to just give them a body shot that will drop them and kind of let them know that, hey, this is what you get when you use too much power. So just be mindful of it, because I've had, in my early days of training, I trained with this guy who he used too much power all the time, and we talked to him about it, and some persons even didn't want to spar with him at times, but I decided that I would continue sparring with him. I remember 1 week he bust my lip. Yeah, him send me home with a bust lip. I'm saying, no, make a plan for him. I have a plan for him. So what I did was, the next training session when we were sparring, I was spar with him, and I realized that he had a tendency to shell up. You have to look at your opponent's tendencies, what they do normally. As I said earlier with Sir Flinch a lot, how they defend themselves. So with this person, I realized that sometimes when you get close to him, he would just shell up and just cover his head, but he would leave his body exposed. So what I did that day was I faked a jab and came in close with the jab. So I jabbed and I stepped in with the jab very close to him, because I knew he would shut up based on watching him. And he did shut up, and the left side of his body was left completely exposed, and I just landed a right hook to his body, and that dropped him for the day. And I think for like 2 to 3 weeks he had problems on that side. He felt a lot of pain on that side, and I did use, that was the early days of me sparring, and I did use a little too much power, but I was kind of angry at that person for using too much power on me in the previous weeks. So that's But yeah, I did plan that, and thankfully he's safe. I mean, I could have broken a rib or something, but thankfully he is safe and he didn't have any major injury after that sparring session. But sometimes you have to drop somebody with a body shot to get them to understand that they're using too much power and they really need to tone it down. And that's the beginner destroyer. For the more experienced destroyer who just decides to use all of his power all the time, you have to decide when you spar this person, because in mixed martial arts training I believe it is beneficial to have hard sparring at times. So you have to assess first the environment that you're training in, because sometimes for me I train at the park where it's concrete on the ground, so you don't really want to do any hard sparring there when somebody can possibly drop and then hit the head on the ground and cause more damage. So you have to assess the this location of your training. When it comes to the destroyer, maybe you have a fight coming up and you would see that, hey, this person spars hard, I can use him really in to my benefit in my training, in my preparation for an actual fight. You call the destroyer, who you know, and you spar hard with him in a safe environment where there are mats or is a canvas or a proper ring where you're safe. Maybe you spar with him with head protection, headgear, and in possibly I would say bigger size gloves, so 12 ounce, 16-ounce gloves, just for your safety, and with shin pads as well, I would say. But you can use the destroyer who is more experienced, who just always wants to go hard, throw hard strikes at to your benefit. It just depends on location, I would say, and what stage of preparation you are in your fight camp, or yeah. So these are just a few of the types of MMA training partners that you will encounter. And as I said earlier, it is very important to be able to identify their personality and the characteristics of these persons, so you can have good training sessions, but most importantly, safe training sessions. You want to be able to go to training and not injure yourself all the time. I mean, sometimes you get bumps and bruises and you get a bust lip or a bloody nose, or yeah, or a liver shot like me. But you want to be safe for the majority of your training session. And that's it for today. This has been the Yardie MMA podcast. I'm your host, Silverback Sigri. You can follow me on Instagram at Silverback Sigri. And this is where we thump boy in the face and defend ourselves.